Call to order. Approval of electronic participation. I don't think we have anybody joining electronically. He's stuck in traffic and he's not coming. Ms. Lowry, Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Mrs. Lowry? Second.
Second.
Dr. Farmer, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Aline,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil,
Yes.
Dr. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Poe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chair comments, I don't have anything. Student representative, Dr. Midget.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I see Ms. Ramsey here from EC Glass, and I'm not sure if we're going to have a presentation tonight from Heritage High School, but I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a good new year. We first have athletics on this presentation. This is from last week. On Monday, we had JV and varsity girls basketball away, JV and varsity boys basketball versus Amherst at home on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we had Scholastic Bowl at home and wrestling at Liberty Bedford. On Thursday, we had JV and varsity boys and girls versus Heritage, and we also had indoor track at Heritage High School. On Friday, we had JV and varsity boys basketball at Rustburg, JV and varsity girls basketball versus Rustburg, and swim at the Jamerson Y. On Saturday, we had indoor track at the Ed Long Invitational in Rockingham and wrestling at Fluvanna. For swim, the EC Glass boys and girls swimming and diving had a great first meet of the season. They defeated Amherst and Brookville and almost won every event of the night. Broughton Webb qualified for states in the 500 free and 200 meter IM. The wrestling team had a record of 4-4 last week, and they traveled to VES in Allegheny. Track and field had many athletes placed in the top 5 at the Ed Long Invitational in Harrisonburg, some of those including the boys 4x800 meter relay placing second, with the team of John Paul Mancier, Enzo Wagner, Jake Flint, and Matthew Rader. The boys 4x200 meter relay placed second. This is the team consisting of Seven Waller, Darian Petty, Trevor Dale, and Tanavion Mosley. The girls 4x2 meter relay also placed fifth, consisting of Trinaya Stewart, Heaven Harrington, Shannon Wilson, and Rosa Webb. And the following athletes also placed second in the triple jump, being Trinaya Stewart. Seven Waller placed second in the 55 meter dash and fifth in the 300 meter dash. Trinaya Stewart also placed fifth in the 55 meter dash, and Ayana Mosley placed fourth in the shot put. Congratulations to our varsity boys basketball team, who on their win of 49-31 over JF this past week. That was on January 9th. Many students in the EC Glass band were also selected for all-district band, those being Kira Rowland, first chair and all-state eligible, Sebastian Mayer, first chair and all-state eligible, Alton Quinn, first chair and also all-state eligible, and Atticus Wilson, first chair and also all-state eligible. In concert band, Alexander Lobb was first chair, Leo Struski was fourth chair, Tyler Turnbow was fifth chair, Joshua Penrod was eighth chair, and Luke Avino was third chair. This past week was also Virginia School Principals Week. Our principals set the tone for success in our schools, so shout out to all of our amazing principals in LCS. Teacher of the Year was also named for all the high schools in LCS. Ashley Merritt was named the 2025 to 2026 LCS Teacher of the Year. Miss Merritt is an art teacher and cultural arts department chair at EC Glass High School, and she has taught there since 2019. Ms. Merritt also leads the Student Yearbook Program, which won top Virginia High School League honors in 2024 and 2025. It has also been featured in the national portfolio every year since 2021. For theater, they are going to have a fundraising performance at the Historic Academy stage on February 1st at 3 p.m. It will be the only public performance before they go to compete in March. So get tickets now and go out and support. LCS also celebrated 160 years of public education in Lynchburg. A plaque dedication ceremony was held on Tuesday, December 16th to honor this moment. The plaque was donated by the Sons of Union veterans of the Civil War to commemorate the 1865 founding of LCS. LCS students have shown many ways that they've served their community this holiday season. Starting with culinary arts, they have been giving back through the Lynchburg Express, a student-run food truck donated by Intuit. They made Thanksgiving treat bags filled with fresh-baked desserts for Parkview Community Mission. They also catered the football team's Pink Dinner fundraiser for the Awareness Garden back in October. The Junior ROTC has also been serving the community as EC Glass and Heritage JROTC students helped run a U.S. Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots drive this winter. Our sports teams have also been serving the community. In October, the EC Glass football team raised $2,500 and the EC Glass volleyball team raised $1,400 for the Awareness Garden Scholarship Endowment, a scholarship that supports students' lives who have been affected by cancer or who plan to pursue a career in a cancer-related field. Furthermore, I don't have a slide for this one, but National Honor Society has been hosting a book drive. They will be collecting children's books and picture books for local nonprofits, and these collections will end on January 26th. Thank you.
Thank you.
You. Question, Claire. How about the prom? Have you guys start planning for prom and then?
Prom, I think there's a prom committee for that, but
Okay.
I'll put that.
All right, no, I'm just curious if you guys had started working on it. All right, cool.
Yes.
The teacher of the year, I know you wanted to say something during the
Oh,
presentation.
no, I was just applauding. We had an
Let's
opportunity.
applaud it together,
Yeah,
so.
we had an opportunity to celebrate the teachers at EC Glass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is public comment. Mr. Barron is not here. Mrs. Lowry?
There's no one signed up for public.
No one signed up for public comment. Thank you very much. Next is consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second? Yeah, go.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Ali,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mr. Gilio,
Yes.
Dr. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Poe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next is financial report. Dr. Majek.
I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jamies.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. So I'm going to be very brief in my comments tonight so that we can lend more time for our budget presentation. You have before you the December 31st, 2025 month-end financials. That makes us 50% of the fiscal year complete. The percent of revenues collected versus the original appropriation was at 46.93. And the amount of expenditures versus original appropriation is at 46.54. So our revenues are, again, inching out our expenditures. The total expenditures, inclusive of our encumbrances, equates to 89.45%, which is well below that 100% mark that you usually look for. So there were no new notable variances this month that had not already been addressed in the prior month's report. Our statement of revenues, we reflected a $55,925,721.41 of revenues that we have brought in so far this fiscal year. Of that total, the state revenues of the budgeted amount is at 41.85%. Our federal revenues are coming in at 33.11%, and our local revenues equated to 56.64% of their budgeted amount. There are additional revenues by way of miscellaneous and charges for services. Their collection rates respectively are at 38.70% and 39.36%. In December, moving to our summary report, in December, LCS experienced another very high claim amount, totaling $1,728,764.89. That's even slightly higher than November's claim. We had a lot of high-cost claims, surgeries, things of that nature that occurred at the end of the calendar year, when those, people need to get that taken care, those items taken care of. So that pushed us to a balance, a monthly balance of 1.932.52 of a negative pull in our health insurance fund. That is the monthly pull. The annual pull, as you'll see on your report, is about $1.6 million negative. So it's not quite as dire as it was the two previous fiscal year months. That's all I'm going to report out unless you have any questions. I just wanted to really just give you a highlights of how we were doing. And since 50% of the fiscal year has passed and we're hovering at 46% on expenditures and revenues, we're right there in line with where we should be fiscal year-wise. So, I will entertain any questions if you have any.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This one is, that's the budget presentation.
It is,
Who is it?
it is. All right, good evening, school board members, community members, and staff. They're pulling up my presentation, but tonight I do have the pleasure of presenting the Lynchburg City Schools, my proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2027, which supports the 2026-27 academic year. So I always like to start with that language. So if we can go to the next slide, this slide here, perfect. So when you see this image, I really want you to think about our why. Why do we build budgets, and why is this particular budget important? This budget matters because it directly impacts our students and our staff. When we discuss compensation increases, we're talking about ensuring that our employees can pay their bills, support their families, and maintain a reasonable quality of life. This budget supports that stability. It also recognizes teachers who give up planning time to teach additional class periods, often completing essential planning work after hours and on weekends. That effort translates into stronger instruction, improved academic outcomes, and better support for our students. This budget also reflects expanded support for students with disabilities, including instructional services, professional development, and staffing to meet compliance and service expectations. It also supports the expansion of alternative education settings, not only for students facing disciplinary action, but for students whose needs are not fully met in a traditional environment. At its core, our why is our people. Our students and staff are the heartbeat of this organization, and this proposed budget is one step towards supporting those who matter most. And so when we invest in our people, we invest in, that investment strengthens our schools and our overall community. Next slide, please. So this slide here highlights where we're headed as a school division. As you're aware, the strategic plan development is currently underway. This has been a thoughtful and very comprehensive process that includes input from internal and external stakeholders. And once this is completed in late spring to early summer, this will be a living plan that'll serve as our roadmap for the next 5 years. Our goals, and the goals for this budget and setting that budget and direction here, sort of absence of a strategic plan and receiving input from not only the board, but as we work one-on-one with principals and staff, improving our academic outcomes and providing students with opportunities, access, and experiences and learning environments that they need to succeed. So to do this, we must provide stronger student supports. And none of this is possible without having a stable and supported workforce. So alongside professional development and capacity building, we must ensure that our staff have the resources they need to live well so that they can focus fully on teaching and learning. If you're worried about paying bills, it's kind of hard to focus on what's happening during the day. Next slide. So Lynchburg City Schools at a glance, I just wanted to provide some context as to a snapshot of who we are, and where our needs exist. We serve approximately 7,700 students with about 1,400 employees across instructional support, administrative roles. We continue to see increased needs in special education and alternative education services for our students. And so as we work to grow academically, we're also responding to increased behavioral and student support needs. Staffing requirements extend beyond SOQ-funded positions, and SOQ means standards of quality, and I'll speak more to that shortly, to meet the needs and maintain compliance with what we need here as a division. So I always like to tell how we do something. I know we talk about the why, but how we do it. So I want to explain how we're funded so that people have a general understanding of how we receive the money that we do. So we're funded through state, local, and federal sources. The funding levels are primarily driven by this thing called Local Composite Index, or LCI, and your average daily membership, and I'll explain what those two things are. While we serve more than 7,700 students, state funding is based on an average daily membership. Those, not your total enrollment. So those are the students that the state will pay for. Our projected ADM is 7,093 students. That means we're funded for fewer students than we actually truly serve. The Local Composite Index determines your division's locality's ability to pay for education. And it's calculated using, and I've never done these calculations, they're done at the state, true value of real property, your adjusted gross income, taxable retail sales, average daily membership, and your overall population. And they recalculate this every 2 years prior to the biennial budget. Okay? And we just receive that number. And then, of course, federal funding is received to use for targeted programs and specific student populations. So that lends us to the next slide. And you'll hear us talk a lot about, we'll say, calc tool or calculation tool. But all of these funding factors are incorporated into the direct aid payment budget calculation template. And like I said, we always call it the calc tool for short. It's published by the Virginia Department of Education, and it's used to estimate state funding under the governor's proposed budget. So our most recent governor, outgoing governor, the calculation tool was released on December 17, 2025. And I included a link there on the slide just for transparency. If someone wants to go in and plug in, it'll give you the estimates, not only for fiscal year 27, but fiscal year 27 and 28. It also will connect you back to the recent adjustments to the fiscal year 26, our current fiscal year budget that we were talking about at our last work session. So it's there if you'd like to play around that kind of thing, like some of us do, but definitely go and take a look. And it's important to note, while I present this budget tonight, it's subject to change. While General Assembly is in session, we have a new governor. So we'll see what those adjustments are to that template, and as soon as we have those adjustments, we'll definitely share with you all. And state funding is based on the standards of quality. That defines the minimum staffing program requirements funded by the state. And I think there was a question even last time at one of the work sessions. It was like, well, what does it say about central office and how many people you should have? Technically, it says I should have 2.43 assistant superintendents, and I have 1. And so they give what those estimates are. But then on the other end, they'll say, hey, you should only have 3 fourth-grade teachers at a particular school. And as we know, we don't want to have class sizes of 25, 30 kids. So what do? We need to make sure that we can have those class sizes that are manageable for teachers and staff and for kids to be there. Okay, guess we're on the next slide. So the key funding realities of that is, when you start thinking about the standards of quality, they fund the minimum requirements, not the full program cost. So it only covers a portion of the total staffing. Many positions are funded entirely through local dollars. Positions not included in the SOQs or standards of qualities do not receive any state support, and those local funds are required to implement state-approved compensation increases. So you'll see some pieces there as we continue. So as we go to the next piece, I wanted to give a snapshot, and then I'll walk through each of these. Here, the slide provides a broad overview of our budget requests across compensation, administrative support, academic success, instructional support, and operations. And these requests align with the focus that I mentioned earlier, with improving student academic outcomes, providing stronger student supports, and a stable and supported workforce. And these guiding principles were used in developing this proposed proposed budget in advance of a finalized strategic plan. Once we have that strategic plan, you'll see how we'll align this differently next year with guiding this. So with the next, thank you. All right, compensation. It's a major component of this budget. The proposed budget includes a 2% compensation increase that aligns with what the governor's proposal was. That's in our most recent calculation tool for all employees. An increase of the base hourly rate from $17 to $20. A 2-year step increase on the employee pay scale, and that's in alignment with my understanding. We've been going every other year for people to get that step increase, and then also reinstatement of school board stipends. This reflects the level of work that's happening across the division and our commitment to supporting the people that are doing the work. We recognize we have a lot of work to do. It only continues to intensify, and we just want to make sure that we're compensating people appropriately for the work they're doing. On the next one, administrative support. It includes advertising and recruitment support, particularly for transportation, so we can get more bus drivers and more staffing in those areas. Adding additional special education supervisor positions so we can strengthen compliance and instructional oversight and support and build that capacity, give better support for students, families, and in particular providing that support and quality professional development for our staff. It also includes human resources compliance officer to support our policy alignment and compliance work. There's a lot of work that goes there with ensuring that we are in compliance. And communications liaison stipend program to just continue to strengthen our communication across the division. We have a really top-notch communications team here, but just ensuring that how do we make sure that messaging is, that we're really promoting that messaging at the same level at all schools. And so that's just a small chunk, but that's something that we do have in there. Next, thank you. All right, so with the next slide, that's academic success and instructional support. So expanding our alternative education program is an immediate need. This supports students whose needs are not fully met in traditional settings. The Power School update improves alignment with VDOE reporting and our assessment tools that we use. That's our student information system. And then instructional support includes extra class period pay for teachers giving up planning time. While they're getting paid to teach an extra course, we want to increase that amount for those teachers. The middle school deans to support those schools that, we recognize we have a few schools in crisis, but really want to support those middle schools so that we can come out of where we are. An early childhood support specialist to strengthen early intervention. The hope there is the more that we can do early, hopefully as the years to come, we're not asking for so much in terms of those other supports. So really beefing up that early support in the pre-K level. Increased purchase services for special education, that's the nature of it, and private transportation services for students with disabilities, and we recognize and be in compliance there. Next, with operations. Operational requests includes ground equipment replacement, school nutrition equipment upgrades, building maintenance supplies for alternative education expansion, which that team has been working on, been very intentional, and they've been working very hard with getting those areas ready and working on that expansion there. But we recognize with next year's budget, we still will need some additional resources. And then in general, looking at increases for our liability insurance that we currently pay for. And essentially, these investments are supporting safe and efficient school operations. So if you look here at the next slide, so you have your operating, I have to turn on this one. This slide outlines fiscal year 26 adopted revenues and the fiscal year 27 proposed revenues. And so if you look here, fiscal year adopted, this is this school year, okay, this fiscal year. In the middle, you'll see the expenditures by category, and I like to look at expenditures. I'm going to talk about expenditures and revenues. I look at expenditures as your output, your expenses, what you're putting out, your revenues, your input, so that's the money that's coming in. So here, this is what we're projecting as our proposed expenditures for next fiscal year or next academic year. And so our adopted is $119,084,068. Our fiscal year 27 proposed is $127,958,432. And then if you go to the next slide, revenue, again, this is the input. So you see here in the middle, your revenues And when you go and you look at that calculation tool, as you go and peruse that, you will see where we got a lot of this information from. So fiscal year 26 adopted, you'll see those numbers, the 119 million, and then for proposed, the 127 million are the same as with expenditures. You always want to ensure that your expenditures and your revenues match, or your revenues exceed your expenditures, but you never want it the other way around, okay? So I always put that out there that way. Never want it the other way around. And so here, and I want to get to the overall bottom line, the difference between what we currently have and then what we are requesting from the city so that we can be clear about what that is. So our fiscal year 26 adopted budget is $119,084,068. The proposed is $127,958,432. What we're requesting as an increase from our locality, from the city, is $4,531,015. So I want to make sure that that number is there, as to, that's what we're looking at, requesting from the city of Lynchburg. Next slide. So as always, I just want to tie it up. So the budget aligns resources to ensure that we have meaningful impact. And the meaningful impact is ensuring that our kids are improving. Those investments in staff, they support student achievement. If staff feel supported, then of course they're going to be more apt to do their jobs better, or to have the opportunity to do their jobs free of distractions. And so that strengthens retention, that helps with compliance, that helps to build capacity. And of course, operational investments always protect instructional time. Okay, if the environment feels good, if it looks good, it's easier to thrive in that type of environment. So I wanted to make sure that I connected those pieces so that you understood sort of the vision in the budget, but then how will it make an impact on kids? And so as we go to the next slide, I just have something before we open up for discussion. If approved, I always want to explain what the next steps are and what this will look like. If you all approve this proposal tonight, this will be submitted to the city manager, and then, of course, from there, they'll let us know the next steps as to what that looks like on their end, and when I would have an opportunity to present there. Of course, we'll continue to monitor the General Assembly, because we have had we have a change, so we don't know what that looks like yet. And then any updates we receive from the Department of Education will adjust as necessary. But I do want to say this. I really thank the board, the Finance Committee, the staff, Ms. Jamie's, definitely Ms. Jamie's, for just the overall engagement in this entire process. The community that came out, I've received different emails from people, folks sharing what their thoughts are on the budget and any questions that they have. So I just open it up now for any discussion or any questions that you have of me. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I saw the local ask, but that's shorter than the 119 to 127. Where's the difference coming from? We'll still need.
So the difference is coming in on the increased amount on the calc tool.
Okay.
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right, all right. And I just want to say thank you for everyone for all your work for this. This was very thorough. Thank you for sticking to education, and that we're focusing on children learning, growing, and getting ready for the workforce on that day they leave. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I have the same question, just more specific. So those state and other revenues are projected, or are they confirmed that those are going to be what we get in 2027? Or is that what we're hoping for?
Well, once they put it on the calculation tool, if they end up landing there, because right now it all goes through General Assembly, but if nothing changes, then if our ADM stays where it is, if it stays exactly as we projected for this budget, then we would get those funds, yes.
Okay.
The only time that I've seen, just professionally, I've seen things shift if your ADM, if you start trending lower, and then you've made all these plans, and sometimes you have to hold back on some of your expenditures, like mid-year and things like that,
Understood.
to make sure you meet it. Yes, sir.
And what was the other revenue category again? I know that.
State,
The
local,
federal.
Well, I know we got state and federal. Federal stays the same based on what you present, but the other is bigger. What accounts for that? Not the local.
So your other includes
Oh,
your
gotcha.
miscellaneous, like, and your charges of service, like any facility fees, anything like that you do at a local level, that you get revenue back in on, those are included in the other category.
And you're projecting that's gonna be roughly 50,000 more, 2027?
Potentially, because we're getting some additional revenue on some of our charges for services lines. So we're anticipating, based on our current projections, that we may get a little bit more for next year's budget. So
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Vijay?
The power school, is that a one-time expense, or is that an annual extra on top of what we pay now for the Infinite Campus and that sort of thing?
The largest fee for next year is the one-time expense, and then you'll have an annual expense, but what we have for Infinite Campus, it would just swap.
Okay, so that won't be something that ongoingly we're paying that amount
Not
each
amount,
year
no,
for
sir.
that? Okay,
No, sir. Just that initial implementation.
okay. And then I have one more question. The statement, requests aligned to division priorities and vision. Obviously, we're in the middle of strategic planning process. Some of that is subject, not necessarily to change, but to, further articulation and understanding. Where are we pulling that from now? Where are these priorities and vision being pulled from as we look at the budget?
Yes, so what I looked at was honestly some of the board's priorities in terms of conversations of we need to improve student academic outcomes. Just through the work that our students do need stronger, they do need more support in terms of alternative ed and in terms of special education. And then looking at our staff and looking at what they have on them. And then, I would love to propose, if the governor was giving more financial support, but we got to have a stable workforce, and we have a lot of turnover. I'm not saying money is everything, but I do think with the cost of inflation, the rising inflation, that it is a concern for a lot of our staff as I communicate with them. So from there, absent of a strategic plan, I had to look at what are my people telling me, but then also what am I seeing just as a practitioner when we go out and I have conversations with staff, and, we have a great deal that have second jobs, so I felt like compensation was really important. Alternative ed, it's been a great need for that. So that's where I came with those three goals with building this budget. Because we see where we are academically, we need greater support for kids, and I need to support this staff.
Go ahead.
I lied, I have one more question.
Okay.
Shame on.
I've been in on a lot of the conversations we talk about, like the alternative ed expansion. I think it's really, really important. You have some pretty specific numbers, including facilities, maintenance, things. Can you speak to what that's counting for exactly, or what that plan looks like at this point in time, or?
Okay, yes. All right, so to not get into, so as far as, like, under the operations piece, when you start looking at building maintenance supplies for alternative ed expansion, there was some plumbing work, there was some other work that needed to be done. We're gonna look at, getting the wireless access points and things like that. So there are other operational needs that we would need to put in there with the building maintenance and supplies. So we did kind of do an estimate there. As far as expanding alternative ed, I'm jumping around because I want to stay on that. On the instructional piece, we started looking at what do we need to do with staffing with those placements. So in some cases, we're going to need to add additional staffing to be able to place people there. We were looking at what counseling supports we would need there. And so do we look at shifting a counselor, or do we look at potentially hiring someone? So we started looking at all of the numbers there. So that's why some of them are very specific, because we started saying, okay, if we hire somebody closer from the middle to the top of the pay scale, how much is this gonna cost? We looked at if we're gonna have this many kids, what is that going to look like? And so we had sort of mapped out, looking at the one location that we've been looking at, but then also looking at others to see how can we move a classroom here and open up a space there. So we were looking at more so staffing when you start looking at expanding alternative ed, but we also recognized in some of the places we're gonna have to sort of retrofit some of those places to make them ready, because some were just used for storage, but it was ample, beautiful space that could be used to expand alternative ed for these students.
So the facilities isn't just at Fort Hill, we're talking about extra,
We're looking at other areas across the city.
okay.
Yeah.
Other questions for Dr. Vijay? No? I have few comments to make, Dr. Vijay.
Yes, sir.
Just to overview, reiterate what we talked about last time, your budget puts minimum wage for our employees at $20 an hour, right?
Yes, yes, it was the 17.
And minimum teacher salary goes up to $51,000.
I think it was 51,000.
51,000, and plus a step increase for all the teachers. And in terms of, you mentioned the General Assembly budget, the governor's proposed budget is 2%, but if the current General Assembly, many times they go up, and they go up to 4%, then we have to cup up another $1.7 million out of our pocket. So for across the street, for the city hall, this is a bare bone ask, not accounting for what may be coming in month of March or April when General Assembly passes their budget. And I wanted to make one more statement. Please do adopt JLARC recommendations, because we got about 1,100 students on IEP in our school district, which is a disproportionate number of students with IEP. The private schools don't want them. When people come to you for school choice, school voucher, they don't want students with IEP. So we, as a public school district, cannot deny those students services. We do provide services, it costs a lot more money. The current funding formula gives the same money for a regular student versus a student with IEP, which is perfectly, to me, they need services, we need to provide them. But we don't get compensated for that. When you 20% of your population is IEP, there has to be a differential payment. The JLARC recommendation, Joint Commission recommendation was to do differential funding. General Assembly has not adopted that for the last 3 years. So hopefully, they'll adopt that and it'll help district like ours, because right now we are holding or backfilling that money from our own pockets. And it's not a political statement, either party, it's the same story. JLARC recommendation needed to be adopted yesterday, but it needs to be adopted in this session. There's no two ways about that. And for city, 4.5 million looks like a large number, but it's a bare bone ask. If the General Assembly gives 4% increase, I'm not putting words in their mouth, then we'll need $1.7 million more. As Mr. Jalil said, it's a budget based on the needs, not the wants. It's a bare bone budget based on our needs. So these are the needs of the district, and we need to take care of our employees. Many of them are working, as you rightly said, 2-3 jobs. Custodian here, I met the other day, he said, are you going for dinner? He said, no, she's going to bring me the food. So why? Because I gotta go to the other job. I'm not going home to have meal. I'm just eating meal here. And that's sad. That should not happen. And under no circumstances it should happen. So I'm glad you're proposing that. We thank you for doing that. And I think it's a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Midget. We move on to the next one, new business, VSBA policy update. Dr.
We need to take action.
Oh, sorry. What am I? Is there a motion to approve her budget?
Motion.
Mrs. Lowry.
Second.
Dr. Farmer. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Aline,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Kupta,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mr. Gilio,
Yes.
Dr. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Poe,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Budget is approved, Dr. Midget. Take it to the city council. Hopefully, they'll give us the money. Next one is VSBA policy update, Dr. Midget.
All right, well, good evening again. You see here, and this is just for your information tonight and read, and then, of course, you would take a vote next month. But you have several policies here. I know the policy work groups have been working through these. You have a policy on staff weapons in schools, guidelines for community resources, community resource volunteers, standards code of conduct. You want me to read them all?
No.
Okay, look, I wanted to check. But they're all here, and it's for you to review. And again, the committees, the various board committees have been on each of these policies. So it's just for information tonight, and you would vote next month.
The procedural thing is if there's a motion from the floor to make it an action item, we can make it an action.
Oh,
Before we do that, I have a question. Now, the action item is to be reviewed and voted on next time? For this, because I have a question about staff weapons in school.
I
Is
have.
this what we discussed?
Yeah, that was the one that you had looked at.
Yep. When it says that a employee cannot have weapons in their car, that they have to have special permission to do that, that does go past the guidelines and the rules for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, when we were talking about this when I was on this committee, or we were talking about this particular one, it was supposed to read that we were going to follow the Commonwealth guidelines. And it didn't need special permission as long as they had an appropriate lockbox in the car. And that was one of the, I'm wondering why and how this changed, if you know.
I think, I'm not sure which board members are on that particular committee. I guess if you could speak to that.
I was,
Oh, you were? No, I'm talking about when they reviewed before it came up. You were on here before they put it up here.
right.
Okay.
So however this changed, I'm surprised because if we've had a situation where we've had teachers who had orders of protection, and they brought it up that they wouldn't bring it into the school, but at least they would have it in their car, so that once they left school grounds, they could protect themselves in the event that they needed to. This made perfect sense to me. But to say that they can't even have it in their car when they are at risk, leaving their car, going to their home, going to shop if they have to go to someplace other than directly home, this puts a burden on someone who might need to protect themselves. And this is one of the concerns that I have. I know that you, if someone came to you and said something to you, that you would grant, I believe you would grant them the permission. You'd want people to be safe. I believe that. You don't have to answer, but that's what I believe. My point is that there might be a superintendent down the road that doesn't allow that. There might be some people that have personal issues that they don't want to talk about. And they are rule followers, teachers are rule followers most of the time, and this would impede someone's ability to protect themselves. So I have a concern about this, and I don't want it to pass as it is. I would vote against that, and I hope that we can talk about that, or put it in your mind that we go back to what the Commonwealth allows for anyone that comes on school property. They leave it in their car, lockbox. They have that ability to protect themselves, a parent or anyone, but this is mostly for employees. But anyone has that ability in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So that concerns me, and before we pass it, I want everyone to know that this is something we should take the time to review before we pass it.
How about we remove this for current discussion and come back and we will revisit that in the next thing? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on that particular committee as a liaison, but I do not remember us addressing that directly
Speak
in
if you know
terms of,
something about it.
Ms. Brown, could you?
We put the updates that were provided by VSBA, but we can take this off and go back and review it and have another look at
That'd
the.
be terrific. Please, please.
So let's remove this policy. Is there a motion to make it an action item?
Before that, I would also like to call attention, there's one other policy that I got brought to me on one of the policy committees, and, it said, we'll look at it again and then bring it back. And I'm looking at it again, and it doesn't look like anything was shifted. And it's the policy JFCA that has to do with removing students from the classroom. And I understand, having procedures for that and needing to have, hold teachers accountable to how they manage their classrooms. I think the struggle I had at the time when we were going over this in the policy review was that it based on what this looks like to me, and I may be misreading this, it's a pretty cumbersome process before a teacher is even able to remove a student from the class. Like, they've got to have it documented multiple times. They've had to try to connect with parents and so on before they can even remove a student from class. And so there's no provision in this policy for a situation where a student just needs to be removed for the sake of the class, for the sake of the rest of the class, without having made prior contact to parents and things like that. And so that gives me a little bit of pause on this policy, same as it did when it was brought to me in that policy review. I just want to make sure we're not burdening our teachers with something, no way for them to be able to remove students from the classroom as needed. I don't want it to be run rampant, but I do want it to be something that they have the ability to address.
Who are the two board members on the student policy work?
I think it was me and
It's
Mr.
so many
Poe on that particular call.
Was it discussed in the policy work group?
It was, and then, if I remember correctly, it was said, hey, we'll revisit this and bring it back for a discussion. And I never saw it again, but I've been looking for it as we've done these policies. And
How about we pull it out, send it back to the policy work group, and you guys look at it again, right? And see
Okay.
what needs to be done.
Okay,
Right, so we take JFCA out, we take the GBEB out. Any other policy you want to take it out for future discussion. Is there a motion to make it an action item? Go ahead, Dr. Major.
Now, Dr. Sumner had sent me a message, said they revisited again last week in that
But
first.
see,
bullet.
since he has a concern, let's.
Oh, no, it's fine. No, I was gonna ask, and not for consideration now, but I guess for the future, if we could, because it's so many different people touching policies, if we can consider, similar to like Academic Success Committee, you have your 3 members, if we could just have maybe the same people, because it's hard, you're going from group to group, and I can't tell who's doing what in these
We can work
moments.
through that.
Thank
So I
you.
can speak to that because it was just me by myself last week, and I brought up that same concern again. There was discussion about it, and it was, decided to just move forward with the way it was.
With the way it was.
Yeah.
But can I speak to, maybe alleviate some stress? I am under the impression that always, if a student is immediately violent, they're taken out. There's no steps to go through. Did you say that's correct?
I mean, that's
Dr.
not what the
Davis?
policy says, the way I read it, but that, I agree.
Yeah, I
That's
think
why I'm saying
but they
I
are
think
taken
there should
out.
be some provisions for, hey, we don't have to go through the whole process if these situations are happening. That's where my concern.
Okay.
Because it says could be removed when their behavior poses a safety concern, but we can pull
Yeah,
that
I see
back
that,
to
but the
language.
statement underneath those 3 bullet points says, when the above criteria all have been satisfied, when, the way I read it, it's when all 3 are satisfied, then they can be removed from class.
So maybe next meeting,
permanent.
you could be there, Mr.
Yeah,
Barron?
that's a
In
permanent.
the meeting when they meet?
Yeah.
And you can bring it up
Okay.
again. How about that?
That's fine.
Right?
Yeah, 'cause it was brought up that if there's a safety concern, then
They're immediate.
they don't have to go through any of those
Yeah.
steps.
Right.
Because a lot of this focus, because it was people were removing people permanently, so if you act, that's why we started looking at
Permanent
this
removal,
policy.
that definitely makes sense. I
Okay.
guess maybe it just behooves us to have some more clarity in the language, because to me, it looks like any removal from class, temporary or otherwise, has to fulfill all three of these things. And look, I've been in contract situations where you sign something that's implied and then later on it's exploited, and I don't want that to happen to us. I want us to be able to have a pretty strong policy.
It's also important for policy work group members to be present when the policy is being discussed. And all
Well-
members on the board, if there are 2 members, the both needs to be present. Because after the fact, when you bring it up, it's, the train has moved. But we could pull these 2 out, and any other policy you want to pull it out.
Well, I just want to speak to what Dr. Majette mentioned, because sometimes it gets a little cumbersome, because there are times where Mr. Barron and I are requested, then there are times where myself and Dr. Farmer are requested. And I don't understand the difference in why sometimes it's certain board members or not, so.
It's the same board members on the policy work group unless somebody's missing and they have put their alternate in there.
I got you, so.
So that's why I'm saying it's important for the same members to be present as the policies are being discussed. We can vote on next time, or do you want to pull these 2 out and approve the others? What's the desire?
I think they should be investigated further.
So we should just leave it?
Yes.
All right,
But
let's move on.
But we vote on them.
Vote on the others except for these 2? So is a motion to,
I'll move to make it an action item for the remaining policies that we
All right.
approve them now. so
is
we
there a
don't have
second to that?
I second it.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Ali,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil,
Yes.
Dr. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Poe.
Yes,
Motion.
It's an action item. Is there a motion to approve it?
motion.
Mr. Poe, the second.
Second?
Mrs. Lowry, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Ali,
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mr. Jalil,
Yes.
Dr. Farmer,
Yes.
Mr. Poe.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. School board member reports. Laurel, Mrs. Lowry.
We went to the ribbon cutting ceremony for their new building. That was very nice. It was on a nice warm day too, in January. And our next meeting is February 4th, so we've not had that meeting yet.
Governor School, Mrs. Lowry.
And our next meeting is March 4th. We have not that meeting yet.
Academic success, Mrs. Lowry.
And we have our next meeting, January 27th. We'll be discussing book adoption, PD. I'll give an update, the team and I that went to the AI conference at that meeting, and then also discuss the teacher treasure box.
STEM Academy, Mr. Paul.
Yeah, thank you. So the STEM Academy ended their fall semester on Friday, December the 19th, 2025, and the spring semester began on Monday, January 12th, 2026. Students have been they've started a new semester and are enjoying their new classes. Internship for seniors began on Wednesday, January 7th at 12 different locations throughout Central Virginia. The seniors will continue to have internship each Wednesday through April 22nd, 2026. On Wednesday, April 29th, 2026, the seniors will be presenting on their internship experiences at the Merritt Hall Multipurpose Room. 10th graders at every base high school during December of early January have had an experience with Susan Cash in terms of meeting and gaining interest in the annual open house that will be scheduled for Thursday, February 5th at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. At the STEM applications for 2026-2027 are due by March 1st, 2026.
Thank you. Finance and Facilities, Mr. Connor is here, Mr. DePaul, Mr. Eileen, you have anything?
Well, when we were at our last meeting, well, let me just say, first of all, I was going to wait for board member comments for this, but I just want to let you know how much I appreciate all the work that you've done to make this budget come to fruition.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you.
I received emails that, with all the ideas that I was coming up as the former committee chair, that I was impeding the academic process, and that the only thing we need to think about is academics, which is teaching and learning. Well, Dr. Majet's report today showed that there's a heck of a lot more to running a school district than just academics and teaching and learning. So much more. Well, I come up with ideas and concepts, and I put out emails, and I was told that I was impeding the process. So what I think it was a dramatic demonstration of petulance and retaliation between Chairman Gupta and Vice Chair Connor. They got together and decided that I was no longer the chair of the Finance Committee, which that's fine with me. You know, I'll do all the power moves that you want. But now they want me to give a report on it. I don't have a report because I'm not the chair anymore.
Thank you.
So as far as I'm concerned, there you go.
Thank you. Next one is LACR, Mr. Jalil.
Yes, our next meeting is going to be February 17th, where we'll be discussing these VSBA legislative positions and any other bills coming down the pike in this new legislative year.
Thank you. Next one is PI, Mr. Eileen, and Dr. Farmer.
We continue working with Robert S. Payne, Tools for School. We have community volunteers who would like to help fund Heritage and Glass if they have students that have funds, and the PTO has reached out to us for assistance. That is our report.
Thank you. Ed Foundation, Mr. DePaul, and Mr. Jalil.
Yes, there is a superintendent's breakfast coming up again, where our lovely superintendent is going to share students at the heart of our work. Message on that, and it will be March 5th, 7:30 a.m. at Lynchburg, University of Lynchburg's Burton Dining Hall.
Thank you. Next one is Beacon of Hope, Mr. Barron and Mr. Poe.
Absolutely. So, spoke with Ms. McQueen earlier today, and as always, lots going on, so I'll try to make this very quick. The Promise Pals at the elementary level continues. On January 7th, in partnership with school counseling, I hosted 13 Promise Pals at Perrymont Elementary. Our Promise Pals, who's current college students and LCS alumni, spoke to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms. So that's continuing on. SAT prep at the high school level. There's SAT prep at Heritage, NEC Glass, and early college students has begun for the spring semester. We have Future Fridays at the high school. 2 Fridays this month. They host Future Fridays classroom visits. This initiative connects students with local employers who share their career journeys and demonstrate how classroom learning applies to the real world. Commonwealth Scholarship, high school level, our Commonwealth Scholarship deadline is February 15th. Of course, students are all working to try to get their money in order so they can go to school. So that's a big date. Networking events, the LCS alumni, on January 7th, their Office of College and Career Success team hosted a networking night at the Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance for LCS Young alumni. 10 local companies were present to offer internships, job opportunities, and general connections. And then finally, Shadow Days for LCS alumni. On January 9th, their Office of College and Career Success team connected LCS Young alumni with 20 local companies for half-day job shadow immersion experience.
Thank you. Next one is Superintendent comment, Dr. Midget.
All right. So I have 3.
Oh, hold on, I left
Oh.
the Student Discipline Committee.
Okay.
Mr. Connor is not there, so Mr. Barron or Mr. DePaul.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that. On January 27th, a few of us will be heading to Charlottesville to take a look into their night school program. The disciplinary committee, I think as Mr. Connor has mentioned multiple times, is probably one of the most intensive, time-consuming committees on the school board. We have met every Thursday since before school has started. I would like to remind parents and guardians to be mindful and stay on top of their children's behavior. This coming Thursday, I believe we're slated to have about 9 cases. So we're in here almost every week to 8:30, almost 9 o'clock at night, hearing discipline cases. And if children are not in school, then they can't be educated. So we definitely need to come up with a plan on how we can curb behavior issues. That's pretty much all I have to say. Other than any of the principals, I did have the pleasure to go to Sandusky the other week and speak with all the grade levels at their town halls to introduce them, to the disciplinary committee and give them insight into different things that could land them there, and then also encourage them to take their education seriously. And so I employ any other board members that to have the time to visit with some schools and of course by reaching out to the principals first and see if we can talk more with the kids and just give them more encouragement about everything that they're doing in schools and to be mindful of their behavior and the things that can impede them from being in school, especially when it comes to their behavior. So.
I would just add to that, the data trends, we looked at some data over the last couple of weeks. Data trends down. So we're headed in the right direction when it comes to discipline based on what's presented to us. And so I want to give that. I think part of why we're seeing so many the last couple is because of the break and some of the deadlines associated with that. So we're seeing things trend down. And I want to just remind people, I think the number one predictor of student success it starts in the home. It's parental involvement. And one of the things I love to see when I sit over here and I talk to families, their students are in trouble, I always picture my kids. I recognize that my boys aren't beyond getting themselves in some kind of trouble because kids are kids. So we're not looking at a bunch of kids who are bad kids. We're looking at kids that have made bad decisions. And our job is to restore them to a place where they can get back in the classroom environment and function and make better decisions down the road. And we see a lot of great cases where parents come in and they hold their children accountable and they don't make excuses for them and they let them face the consequences for their actions. And that's always very encouraging to me, and I want to continue to ask parents to consider how they are either enabling their children's behavior or holding their children accountable so that they can move forward into a better future.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Midget, Superintendent Down.
Okay. All right, so I have 3 comments. I think first, I want to provide an update on the strategic plan process. Mr. Barron and I are going to kind of play off of each other on this one. But we recently met, Advanced Learning Partnerships is the firm that is handling our strategic plan process and guiding us through it. So we had a meeting recently with our 2 board representatives so that Mr. Barron and Mr. Connor could get an update because they've been on this process throughout and just ensure alignment on our next steps. We've been working closely with them just to make sure that we have everything clearly outlined so the public can have a better understanding of what comes next in the process. Our communication team is working closely with them so that they can outline and promote the upcoming community focus groups and surveys. So they're working on that information now. They sent us a template or sort of a draft of what they'd like to send out, and then our communications team is pulling that information together so that it's more aligned and on brand for us. Over the next 2 days, our leadership team, that's at Central Office Administration and building level leaders, we're gonna meet with them so that we can sort of review some just emerging themes and start getting that information from them. Because as we've shared before, we're gonna have a lot of input into this process, but really, when you start getting down to the core level, teachers and principals and those people who are directly touching those kids in that building every day are going to be the ones who are going to be carrying out those plans. So we absolutely want everyone's input. At the same time, we really need their input because they are going to be touching this every day for this to be a living plan. So we're going to be meeting with the company over the next 2 days to just sort of engage and work through, and she has a series of activities she's going to take us through to engage that conversation and that discussion.
Yeah, I would just continue, I would continue with that same thing. We went through a lot of vendors to secure who we secured, and one of the primary reasons that we landed on them was because they were so immensely data heavy. I mean, like, just absolutely over the top with their data. And that's important. However, data is only as good as what you know. You know, if you don't have the data, you can't make decisions, you can't interpret data, you can't synthesize it. And so it's very, very important, and I can't stress this enough, I've been telling everybody I can, that everybody in the community needs to be involved in input. We need to be involved, not just for our sake as we collect data and build a strategy, but for your sake as a community to be informed about what's going into this process and where we land. It'll make a whole lot more sense when we roll out the strategic plan if you were involved in the process along the way. And so I think it's absolutely essential. Every business leader, every organizational leader, every parent, every community member that has a stake in what happens with LCS, which is truthfully everybody in this town, needs to be involved in that process. I want to see like brimming out the doors at the town hall meetings. Like, it shouldn't be just a handful of the usual suspects. Everybody needs to be there. February 19th is the date, and I can't stress it enough. Put it on your calendar, make space. It's very important. So we're talking about the future of our students, the future of this community, based on what strategic plan we develop. So I want to again thank you for allowing me to speak into that. But we need that input. We need that all stakeholders to be involved in that.
No, thank you for partnering with me on that. I have 2 more comments. I'm not going to hold y'all long. All right, my next piece, we recognize that there may be some inclement weather coming in. I'm doing an anti-snow dance because we need to be here every day that we can. But in the event that we have inclement weather and people still have access to electricity and internet and those things, we do have very well-crafted remote learning plans that Dr. Davis and Ms. Campbell and those teams work closely with. We met with principals before we left for the holiday break. So all principals, assistant principals, everybody was on that same call and got that information. So we're working now to make sure that all staff has that same information. And should we be in a position where we have to have remote learning, we do have all of that ready to deploy. My last piece, I just want to share just this tidbit with the metal detectors. Today marked the first day of implementation at EC Glass. Overall, I truly believe I got there. I think Travis and that crew, they were there probably at 6:30 or 6:20. I rolled in about 6:47, okay? So I will be honest, about 6:47 this morning. I was not, they were already out there and buses were going by. But just the overall process, I felt like it went relatively smoothly. You know, there's always going to be things that you can work out in kinks, and that's life. We're always working and growing, and you see something and hope we're all reflective and say, oh, I got to adjust this there, and that's what we do. And those things will continue to be addressed. But I really do want to thank that committee for the thoughtful planning that went into this effort. I know there was, you know, of course, you try to not look on social media and you see what are they doing? Our kids are outside. For me, when I looked at it today and being there, I felt a sense of relief in terms of you can't prevent all things, but there was a sense of relief that, hey, we're getting these kids in here, and once we get this routine going, there's just an added layer of safety that's there, because it's important. I think it's important for all of us, but I'll just speak for me. It's so important to just ensure that our students and staff are safe, and that goes back to the environment piece that I spoke to in the budget and things like that. Once, that's an operational piece. If you feel safe, you feel good in an environment, it's easier to learn. It's easier to teach. As somebody who was a high school teacher and a high school principal, it's easier to do the work that you need to do if you feel safe and secure. So I say that team, I know that they've already had a debrief and they're adjusting for tomorrow, and they'll go in tomorrow and we'll continue to move that forward. But I just wanted to at least put that out there, that there'll always be a complaint. There'll always be something to work through, but I was really proud of that first day of implementation. I do think that it went smoothly. So that's all my comments.
Thank you. Board comment, we'll start with Mr. Barron.
All right. First of all, just in the vein of trust, I want to continue with your comments about the metal detectors. I've got 2 kids at the high school, EC Glass, that got to go through there. I get to get debriefed when I see them tonight about how it went.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of, obviously, it can be a polarizing thing. You know, are these even useful? Are they, you know, whatever. What I do want to point out is I want you to note, if you're listening to this, I want you to note the administration's concern for the safety of our students. That's what should be at the forefront. Recognize that, appreciate that, whether you agree with this system or not, appreciate that their concern is the safety of our students. And I will say, it is still a community effort. Metal detectors don't fix the problem. They add a layer of security and safety, but it doesn't address the root issue, and that's a community concern. And so I just want to encourage our community to be involved in and engaged in things that will address the root cause. What's causing our kids to turn to violence? What's causing our kids to posture with weapons? And what's causing these things to be an issue in the first place? That's what we need to be trying to find. Let's not get a false sense of security now that we have extra security measures in place to say, oh, it's taken care of. That's not fixing the problem. Let's continue to look for solutions that actually address the main root cause. And to jump, because I just talked about the transition piece with the strategic planning, February 19th, be at the town hall. But transportation, we lost another bus aide and driver, if you look at the HR report. And we need more personnel in this thing. You know, I want you to reiterate, the training is paid for. You get their CDL, you can get all the training, the bus driver, endorsement. But you get paid to do that. So that's important to understand. There's people in our community, I think, that can do this. I got to drive, again, before the break, I got to drive a bus for Sandusky Middle School. I love it every single time. Like, I wish I just had, free time to be able to go and drive the buses more. I don't, unfortunately, but I absolutely love it. And whatever might be the hindrance or the boundary that keeps someone who might hear this message, or if you talk to somebody who has questions, please point them to me. I can set all of their fears at ease, I promise you. And I might even start a whole bus driving club or something like that. But we've got to get people on those buses to drive these kids and get them safely to and from school. Kids waiting outside when it's 20 degrees because the bus is late, because we've got too many. I'm not saying that is happening. I don't know if it's happening or not. I'm just saying that's what the risk is when we don't have enough personnel. That's an easy solution. We just need people. Step up. We can do this. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Yes, we still going back in my mind to the kids. I've sat in a few times with you guys on the discipline committee, and I tell you what, that's a tough committee. But when I went home and reflected on that, having 10 cases or even 9 cases a week, when you put all that together within the context of all the other kids, it's really boiling down to basically a handful of kids. So I just kind of want to encourage you guys and even the whole system to realize that, you know, it is not a complete disaster because we have 8 families coming in on a weekly basis. There are a lot of other kids that are doing extremely well, and I think we need to at least look at the bright side rather than, you know, the bleak side of, you know, 8 or 10 families coming in on a weekly basis. And then the other thing I want to say is that in terms of the whole point of what we've discussed tonight with the budgets and all the other inputs, areas that are coming together, I still want to be able to reflect back on the kids. Because if we have an operation like this, so much going into it, then I still want to see the end result, and that is to know that kids are learning, because we're putting in so much energy and effort and so many variables in here, but the end product has still got to be the number one thing. And that is that kids are graduating, kids are learning, and kids are doing well. Because that's really what the bottom line in my mind is all about. That we're going to be able to get this message and the learning into the hearts and minds of the kids. And I mean, we're good, we're doing a good job, but the kids, we gotta graduate those kids. We gotta make sure that they're gonna go and be productive citizens.
Thank you, Mrs. Lowry.
I'm enjoying being in the schools. I visited my January visit already. Some I missed because of days out, but also enjoying seeing the kids get bikes for their achievements in the schools. It's been fun. I'm setting up, going to set up reading at the schools who will have me for Valentine's month. So I love this I Love You Stinky Face series. So anyways. January 23rd, I'll be speaking at CVCC to both high school students there. And I also visited the bus with Mr. Barron when we were before the break. So that was very eye-opening, informative. I've been there, but not for many years. So, and also clarity for teachers who are contacting me still about AR. I found out tonight it's principal first, then the principal will talk to Dr. Davis. So do not directly inform Dr. Davis. Just an update. Okay.
That's you. Thank you, Mr. DePaul.
I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad I voted for you. I'm so pleased. I'm so optimistic about these things.
Thank you.
And Dr. Farmer, you being on the RS Payne committee, I'm just glad I think you're one of the best people to be on that. You know, RS Payne is in an unfortunate situation. The children there are not doing too terribly well. It was the Go Center was put there, if you remember, to raise the scores of the school. And that started off where, unfortunately, the majority of the kids that were coming into that school were from Paul Monroe. And they couldn't do that any longer because it wasn't fair. So they had to split it back up, and they had to go and get other kids from other schools to keep the numbers right. Now, we want to talk about transparency and what's right for the kids. I think it's really wrong that we move kids from other schools to a failing school just to get the numbers up. We're not addressing the problem. One of the things we might consider is having maybe honors classes for each school, maybe remedial teaching for each school, maybe general educations for each school. Something along the lines that has that unit right there when they're close to home, have that there for them to learn and have the achievement, not segregated from other parts of town, but actual people they grow up with. These kids can see others achieving that they know. Now, it's a big ask, and they might not be able to do it, but sitting on our hands and not doing anything or coming up with ideas, which I've been encouraging people to do, which unfortunately comes with its own level of retaliation. I'm just saying that I'm confident that through Dr. Majette and Dr. Farmer, RS Payne is going to have its best chance. But we have to come up with our inputs too. I'm just encouraging everybody to come in with ideas that might be able to help save RS Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Jalil.
Yes, thank you. Board, for our next meeting, I am going to bring up the issue of a very simple motion that makes it a standing agenda item to discuss student academic performance in our business meetings. We get students to come here and they tell us about the sports that they've made accomplishments in and different things like that. But if we can focus on academics I think that can make a compounding difference. So it's a simple line item. It's not a policy, nothing, just a line item on our agenda that speaks on student academic performance. That's it. I'll bring that up next meeting. I also am speaking on January 28th at CVCC. Look forward to that. My reoccurring stump, similar to Mr. Barron's transportation stump, is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So as we compare our notes and as we work on our strategic plan and as we make our plans for this coming comprehensive plan, keep in mind that the culture you create within each school, and I taught in almost all of the schools, and they all had a different environment, academic environment, a kind of a spirit. Some were more fun than others, of course. The culture that you create will allow for all these processes and all these different improvements that we're trying to make in other ways to be efficient and effective, to come to fruition, I think. So keep that in mind, and I have a lot of detail. Just for example, everyone dressing up on a test day is a small thing that will help the environment, the culture. My other idea is having a monster truck out in front of a middle school a month before a test day and making sure that all the kids know that straight A students will get a ride in the monster truck is an incentive that will create a culture that elevates academics and elevates the things that we want. So I just would like to remind you of that. Lastly, I'd like this board to focus more on transparency, even transparency that errs on excessive transparency. I don't want to hear about removals of members from committees at the last minute. I'd like to be notified of this in an email. I'd like to know ahead of time that this is going to happen, or that it did happen and the reason why. And this, I can simply quote Mr. Barron again, just for right now. He just said, if we don't have the data, we can't analyze. We can't make, we can't really make a decision or know what to think about this removal. So I don't want to hear about it here. I'd like to have notification anytime this happens. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Farmer.
Well, my superintendent, I would like to thank you for the time put in the budget for everyone, the students, the teacher, every staff member, employee, even the janitorial. You didn't leave anyone out, and we personally thank you. We are getting the trust back into the community slowly, but at least it's coming back. When you have community ladies that want to come out and pay for somebody's fines and all, we're getting the trust back. And we're getting that back by them seeing a board that has teamwork. There is no I. We're together, okay? I'm enjoying, and the last thing I have to share with you, I'm enjoying being a life coach for a student at Fort Hill Schools. I'm determined that Mr. Barron and Jabri, y'all won't put her out, okay? That's my spiel.
Thank you. Mr. Paul.
Thank you. So one thing I want to talk about, this is, being a parent myself, and it's something that I've increased and started doing a lot more of. One thing that I'm finding out is, we talk about the achievement gap and different things of that nature. There are a lot of students that tend to get a bad grade not because they don't know how to do the work, but because they're not turning their work in. One thing I've made a note to do is as a parent, to log into Infinite Campus at least every other day, if you can, every day, or at least definitely weekly. So I just want to put that out there and just check to see what assignments, if any, that your children may not have turned in. Communicate with your teachers. I think if us as parents do that a lot more often, and encourage the kids to be good students, because you can be smart but be a bad student. And I think that will help with the achievement gap actually a lot as parents. So that's one thing I just wanted to put out there. for parents like myself to just log into Infinite Campus a lot more and check on your students. I want to, on a positive note, I've been spending a lot of time over at the STEM Center, over at CVCC. There are a lot of great things going on over there. For any parents that, have the students that are in the 10th grade, definitely, or even before then, start looking into it, start, reaching out. There are a lot of good programs and that they have going on over there, and those kids are really performing and learning some high-level content that's going to help lead them into the real world as they move forward. On February 23rd, this isn't, so much school-related, but it is school-related. Our coalition will be having a meeting over at the Miller Center, February 23rd. We're going to be talking about vaping. We're going to have some pretty good speakers and different things. So I encourage all parents and community folks to come out and gain some information and see how they can help curb that, because that is something that happens in our schools, and we need to contend against that. Lastly, I just want to thank the staff of LCS, the teachers, principals, admin, central office, all across the board for the work that they do every day. Just keep on fighting, keep on doing what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Last one is me. It's easy to sit here and give speeches. This is a volunteer job. Today there was a legislative advocacy committee meeting. Guess how many board members showed up for that committee? 0. Ms. Day emailed me that no committee members are here, and I'm going back to office. Is that correct, Ms. Day?
Yes, sir.
And so it's very easy for us to give speeches. I'm going to put this, do that. But you got to do the basic job of showing up when something is scheduled. Mr. Poe, the reason you got these different members, there are 2 members assigned to each work group. Stationary. No retaliation, no moving, stationary. But when they don't show up, they have an alternate to show up in their place. That's why you see different members. Otherwise, there's no change in terms of membership to those task forces. So it's very easy to sit here and show up at the 11th hour and say, I don't like this and I don't like that. But the policy work groups where all that originates. So we got to make sure that we are taking care of it when it's discussed with the staff in those meetings. And if you don't like something at that time, don't let it move forward to the full board. Stop it there. When it moves it to the full board, then it's coming out from you, not from us. Okay? Having said that, appreciate everything you guys do. Next is informational item, Academic Success Committee, January 27th at 3:30. Next school board work session, February 3rd at 5. Finance and Facilities, February 10th at 3:30. Discipline Committee Data Review, February 12th at 3:30. LSCR, February 17th at 3:30. Next school board meeting, February 17th at 5 p.m. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.